Hi everyone, my name is Nina Melendez. I'm the Virtual Content Specialist for multilingual learners and English language learners for mathematics grades 9 to 12. Today we are going to be looking at resources for Algebra 1, day 32 to 36, that has to do with applying the quadratic formula. We are going to look specifically at resources for day 32 and day 35, which day 32 will look at the introduction launch, and day 35 will be looking at the explore. Now, key ideas that are covered are the quadratic formula, what is standard form, identifying your A, your B, and your C, and the introduction to the discriminant. Okay, so before the lesson, or maybe after they have done their notice and wonder portions of the lesson, you can go ahead and use this to go over key concepts that they will need to understand. Now, one thing that I've noticed is that it's very important to stress what the standard form is. So always like the ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, making sure that they are very aware that it has to equal 0. Additionally, that it's going from highest to lowest exponent. And another thing to stress is that when identifying your A, your B, and your C, it's the number and not the variable. Even after many times of teaching this, some students still want to put 2x squared as their A instead of just the 2. So reinforcing that and being very explicit, especially to our English language learners, so that they understand that the value of A is 2, in this case that the value of B is 16, and the value of C is 30. Now, depending on the level of your students, when you go over the b squared minus 4ac, the discriminant portion of the formula, you can introduce, like, we are looking for if it's a positive number, if it's 0, or if it's a negative number. We're not looking for what this number represents within the formula. We're just looking for if it's positive, 0, or negative. Because if it's positive, it has 2 solutions. If the number is 0, it has 1 solution. Or if it's a negative number, it has no real solutions. And you can go ahead and show them an example that once you have found your A, your B, and your C, you can go ahead and substitute. I tell my students that if it's easier to go ahead and use a calculator to put this entire thing into the calculator with parentheses. And then to see here that this is a positive number, therefore it has 2 solutions. And if you want to have them recall prior knowledge, tie it to the graph, and where they can see that it does have 2 solutions. So the introduction launch, the second portion of the introduction launch looks like this. And it asks the students to rewrite the equation in standard form, so that's 1. To identify their A, their B, and their C, so that's 2. And finally, to compute their b squared minus 4ac. So it's asking them for 3 things, and this is a very small amount of space. Now, that being said, some of your students might be doing this in their notebooks, and it's nice to have it all in one place. But if for some reason you have students that are working on a digital notebook, my suggestion, especially for English language learners, would be to organize it in this manner in which you are asking them to rewrite in standard form. That way, especially our multilingual learners, they know what instruction and where to follow it. If it's all together, they might follow one of the instructions but forget about the other ones. So in this way, we can see rewrite in standard form. So that's the first thing that they're going to do. Then they're going to identify their A, their B, and their C, and then they're going to compute and giving them the space of where to work on these things. And also putting less amount of problems per page. And here we see that in the final one, I've left them more space because they are going to have to distribute to be able to put into standard form. Okay, so now this is the key vocabulary for day 35. The key vocabulary for day 35. Now, in this slide and the next slide, I just review what does it mean to substitute into the quadratic formula. Again, stressing those key concepts of standard form, making equal to 0, and what numbers are your A, your B, and your C. Now in this one, I show them how they substitute into the quadratic formula. And then in the next slide, they can see how you substitute, simplify, and solve. So you see how you substitute, you simplify, and solve. Now, for this lesson, the students are going to have to problem solve and find the error. So especially if you have stressed a lot, like make sure it's equal to 0. Make sure you're equal to 0, especially for English language learners to have that concept. They will see that when they start here, that it is not equal to 0. Now, many of them might be able to solve the equation using the quadratic formula. So when they have to describe the errors, have them sometimes verbally tell you what was the mistake. And when they verbally tell you what the mistake was, then tell them, so this is what you are going to write down. And in that way, sometimes our English language learners might think that they do not know what to write, but they have actually already identified what to write. They just haven't realized it, and that's perfectly fine. But verbalizing it, it's like that click moment where, oh, I'm telling you, let me just go write it down. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful, and I will leave this as a resource. You can use any portion of this resource, or if you want to use this video and pause it and have students copy something, that also helps. I hope this has been helpful, and have a lovely day.